Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today I'm going to show you how to go about harvesting. Now this should be pretty self-explanatory. You go out, you find the right fruits and you pick them up and pull them. But please keep in mind, not everybody's ever done this before. So we're going to go through some basics here. Bottom line is you want something to carry your stuff in. You can either get you a basket like so, or you can get, like I got a little bucket here. The only thing about either one of these is I like to have a singular handle. Some you have to have two hands on it, and that just seems awkward to me. I like a singular handle. You can use anything that'll hold anything. You can use a basket like this. This is an old basket that we got. It's got some holes in the bottom, but we solved that by just putting some paper bags in the bottom of the basket. Alright, so easy enough. This was, I think, a thrift store find. So just anything that will carry your produce. Keep in mind, the more produce, the bigger your bucket needs to be, or the more trips you're going to have to make. So I'm going to use this one for now. And try and keep all the dirt out. Some people like to use laundry baskets and all kind of different things to carry their stuff in. The other thing to have is a pair of scissors and a pair of cutters. That's for the bigger stuff. Alright, so we're going to start off with some squash over here. The other thing I would also recommend is try and do your heavy stuff first. Like squashes are fairly heavy, you don't want them sitting on top of tomatoes. Alright, now you can also harvest, you know, your squash and then drop it off and then come back and get your beans and drop them off and so on. But you know, whatever you do, don't put your light stuff at the bottom and the heavy stuff on top, because you'll squish everything and that's not good for it either. Alright, so harvesting squash, I like to make sure that they're nice and yellow. And of course each squash variety is going to be different. And the other thing to keep in mind, squash vines have lots of pricklies on them. So you may want gloves when you do this. I like to think I'm tough, so. And then one of the things with squash is you want to get a little bit of stem at the top. Alright, but see, that's a nice golden yellow color. A little bit pale on the bottom yet, but we want them young and tender to a certain extent, so that they don't have a lot of seeds in them. Like that one right there. Now some people don't like them to get even this big. I like to make sure I get them harvested at some point before the bugs get in. Alright, so let me gather up the rest of these. Let me show you this one over here. Some people like to get them when they're small yet, like that, and they think that that makes a better, nicer squash. It all depends on your preference on that. I believe squash are like cucumbers, that they can get tough as they get larger, but they're good to eat pretty much any size. Like this one might have gone a bit too long. Big old monster squash. Now we do have a lot of squash, actually, a lot more than I expected, so I'm pleased with that. Now one of the things you don't want to do is just go yanking on it, because if you yank on it you could end up cutting your vine or tearing apart your vine, and a clean cut is going to be better to heal up than a broken cut. Alright, so all in all, if this is all the squash I got, we've done real well. Alright, so I'm very pleased with that. So that's my squash harvest. So just for room's sake, I'm going to transfer these into here. Now one thing I will tell you is, if you're harvesting and not taking them in right away and doing like I'm doing and storing them, keep them in the shade where it's cool. Don't store them outside where it's nice and hot, or you may find that they wilt real bad and start looking rough. Alright. Now let's go to some green beans. Alright, you can see I got a lot of green beans up in here. And all of those are pretty good sized to be harvesting. Now, this one is just starting to lump out a little bit. And that's kind of where I want to make sure I get them before that happens. Otherwise what will happen is the wall of the bean can actually end up being very thin, and you don't have near as much meat on your beans. Now you can just pull them off like so when it comes to green beans, but I don't like to just yank on them. I like to try and hold the other end, and the reason is if you do that, sometimes what you'll end up doing is ripping the plant. All right. But you just go through the other beans. Now one like this size, I would probably let that go for a while, and it's kind of up to you. I know a lot of people say basically a hand's width is the length they like to have them, but it is kind of up to you. If you let them go too long, like I said, they'll end up seeding up real bad, and you may find that they're a little tougher. But most of mine are going to end up being canned anyway. You don't eat too many of them fresh. Though you can eat them directly off the vine. They're just fine. Not like something you have to cook, though many people do prefer them that way. Alright. So let me get all the big ones. Now another thing about green beans and peas is it often helps the vine to produce if you continually harvest your beans. Right, they will produce more because they're trying to produce seeds. And so if all the seeds have disappeared, then they're going to think that they're not going to be able to reproduce, and so they're going to grow more flowers. Now the smaller beans are still edible, so if you get them small, that's still fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Oops, like these just fell off. I'll throw them in there too. Those are still small. Oops. So that's what I got just off of 3 little plants. Alright, so now let's talk about peas. So like this one here is a nice fat pod. You can kind of tell it's swollen up. You can also kind of look through the pea pod in the sun, and you can see that they're nice big peas. So that's what you're looking for. It's nice fat peas. You can eat the pea pods by themselves if you're into that, or you can just take the peas off, toss them in your bucket. Alright? And then compost that or just toss it down. Now let me show you these here. Find a good example. So right now my peas are really not doing fantastic. It's really late in the season. I did not get them growing soon enough. But you'll find, like on these smaller pods, they haven't really started getting fat, that the peas inside are still very small. Alright? So you kind of want to wait until they're getting bigger. And like I said, I like to kind of hold them up to the sun if you can and see, and that's usually easier later on in the afternoon when the sun is hitting from an angle and you can kind of look through them to see whether or not the peas are big and fat on the inside. Cucumbers are good at pretty much any size. This one here is still a little bit small. This is an Armenian cucumber, so they get really long. But I want them, you know, at least about yay big around on these. And each cucumber is going to be different sizes depending upon the variety that you're growing. So one of the things to keep in mind when it comes to cucumbers is what are you going to do with them. So if you're going to pickle them, a lot of people have asked, well, what size should I pick them? Well, pick them the size you want them for pickles. If you want small, little tiny gherkins, then pick them about that size. If you want them to be larger, big fat dill pickles, then pick them at that size. You know, a lot depends on the jar you're going to use and the methods you're going to use to prepare them. If you're eating them just straight up like we like to do in a salad, you want to get them fairly young because they'll have less seeds and the seeds are much softer, so you can eat them without a problem. So young is better when it comes to eating them fresh, but if you're looking for pickles and all that, I would look at, you know, basically the size of the pickle that you want. And of course that depends heavily on the variety. Okay, now let's talk about my cucamelons, or the, what is it, Mexican sour gherkins. Basically they don't get real big. Alright, now I don't really grow them to harvest and store in any way, shape, or form. They're primarily there for snacking while in the garden. So for me, about that size is just fine. Anything bigger than that's a bonus. You just pop them in your mouth and munch them as you go along. Alright, so now when it comes to tomatoes, a lot depends on the variety of tomato that you have. One thing you can do is you can pick them when they're just starting to turn red. Alright, they will last a little bit longer, they will ripen up on the counter. Or you can wait until they're fully red. Some people think that it makes it a little sweeter, but you can definitely take them like this, and in a day or so that'll be nice and ripe. But that also gives me an extra day before they start to get too ripe. Alright, so I like to get them when they're about that color, plus or minus a bit, and those are nicely stored. Alright, so let's talk about turnips. So these are the smaller turnip, but that one's pretty good sized. Now you can actually eat the greens, though typically with the turnips I've been just breaking the tops off and using those for compost. But that is a very nice healthy turnip. So I don't know, I'm going to check this one out because these are a small variety. And we have had them smaller, but they're so much harder to peel. Like on this one here, it's starting to split a little bit. So, and you can't really tell it's splitting until you see the bottom. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a few of these. Primarily kind of open up space for others to grow bigger. Man, look at those. Now a lot of people, like I said, do like to eat the turnip greens, which we have not tried. So I don't know, I did taste them fresh and they're okay. Probably not my favorite, but you can cook them down and freeze them apparently, and use those for food source as well. And I will say that, you know, if I had to choose for a plant for a survivability kind of thing, if I was starving to death, I would grow a lot of turnips because of the fact that you not only get the meat of the turnip, but you also get the greens that you can eat, and that's a lot more food than typical plants will give you. All right. But at this moment, we're just going to go with the turnip itself. Alright, so another thing is peppers. Now peppers you kind of want to watch as well, because you want to make sure that you don't rip up your plant, particularly a small plant. Now this is a decent sized pepper here. Not huge by any means. Definitely big enough for a salad. And then I got this one down here that's kind of touching the ground. So I want to get that one too. You can see that one. It's a decent sized pepper. Alright, so we got those. And if you look back here, you can actually harvest peppers as small as this. Alright, but these are bell peppers and they'll get quite a bit larger, so I let them go a bit longer. And then if you look over here, you can see this is a jalapeno. And jalapenos will turn red, but that's a nice size jalapeno there. And this one here is reasonable size, so we'll go ahead and grab both of those, and that way hopefully it'll flower more, start to grow more, and make more jalapenos in the end. Alright, so we got those. Let's go over here and look at the fruit. Alright, then after we get all the veggies picked, we still got the fruit to deal with. So like some of these that are like damaged like that one, I'll probably go ahead and take that one. Well, actually I will now. Some of the bigger ones, I go around and I just kind of pull on them a little bit. If they want to fall off, I'll take them. Unless I see ones like this that are very ripe, so I'll go ahead and grab those. Go ahead and just kind of feel them all, and if you feel any, the plums in particular, if they get real soft, you want to make sure you get them. And like I said, when they really start to looking very ripe, you might want to grab those. Grab that one. Grab that one. Alright, then we'll check this tree over here. And I also look for any kind of plums that might have fallen, because sometimes the birds will get to them and they'll make them fall off. And like this one has a little bit of damage, so I want to get that now. Any of them that are damaged. Huh?
I think there was a bug on that one.
Was there? Maybe. Oh yeah, I want to kill that. That is a stink bug. That is a baby stink bug. We don't want those. I'll kill them when I find them. Alright, let's see. The others I'm looking. Oh, that one's soft. Okay, and that's how we go about picking the fruit as well. Alright, so thanks everybody for stopping by and checking out my harvest. This is what we got today. We got lots of squash and some turnips and green beans, some green peppers, some jalapeno peppers, some plums, and some tomatoes. Oh, and a few little tiny peas. I'm sure there might be a few more out there. We'll have to take a look and see later on or tomorrow. And keep in mind, I mean, most of this could have been picked tomorrow. I mean, you don't have to get it all today. But, you know, the longer it waits out there, the more it's exposed to bugs and you know, possible other issues, and could potentially dry out. So you want to keep on top of your harvesting, otherwise you're growing everything for no good reason. Alright, so thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Please give me a like and a subscribe if you liked it, and if you haven't already subscribed. Otherwise, grow something so you too can have a harvest like this to put in your fridge and to have to eat as you need. Alright, y'all come back and see me now, and thanks once again.